What's up, everybody, and welcome to the Comment Writers. We're going to talk about Kamen Rider Gotchard, Episode 5. I'm your host. My name is Josh Meek, the Uber Geek, and joining me, as always, in the co-driver's seat is my good friend Toby Tobes. What's up, Toby?
Josh, we're going to do a quick follow-up to last week's story real quick.
Okay. I'm so excited. Let's go.
So what... You know the legacy and the lore of the gun under the bed.
Yeah. So if someone's jumping into episode 5 for the first time, give them a quick little recap of the gun under the bed story.
Okay, so the shortest version I can say is I was at a lawyer with my grandmother, and she said I have a handgun in between my mattress and my box spring that I sleep on for safety.
And she would not stop saying that in front
of
the lawyer.
She would not stop saying it in front of the lawyer, along with I'm just going to have my son throw it in the river, even though it's registered to me. That was the disposal plan of her handgun.
Yeah. Because that's how you get rid of guns. You throw them in the river.
Yeah. So I went to her house on a Sunday for her birthday. Graham is 2 days away from hitting 91, as we talked about the other day. So she'll be 91 when this comes out. So I was telling my cousin who came down to visit about the hand cannon underneath the mattress. And so we were talking, and I was like, I want you to come with me and lift up the mattress just in case something dumb happens.
In case you get shot.
Yeah. And he's like, no, I don't have to see it. And I was like, no, I don't think that you have to see it. Like, you have some sort of weird thing where you don't believe it's here or whatever. I was like, I just want someone to double check with me, and we're going to see if it's here or not. So Josh, I literally flipped her mattress and pulled apart her bedding, and the gun is not there.
Okay. So then that leads to some questions. Was the gun ever there?
So other cousins have confirmed that they've seen her with the gun at some point.
Okay, so it's stashed somewhere else in the house then.
Or it's already in the river.
Oh, you think she already dumped it, maybe?
I have no idea, and her memory is not so good at 91, where I don't know if I could get an actual answer if I asked her where it went. Like,
that's
I don't
amazing. Know I'm guessing it's already in the river then.
That'd be hilarious. I hope so.
Let me ask you, does she have means to get to the river on her own?
Well, she wanted my uncle to do it. So like he would have came over to say hi for dinner for whatever since that day. I could easily have seen her say like, take this with you and throw it away. But he's usually pretty good about telling me any demands that his mom, my grandmother, make. And I feel like he would have told me like, hey, I got the gun from Graham's bed. It's in the river now.
I was gonna say, is this the type of dude who would just like take a gun, throw it in the river, and not say anything?
I wish. I'd be okay with that too.
Because that's a vibe right there. I definitely have some family members who would completely take a gun and throw it in the river without telling anyone. Like they would be the people who you'd call to for that. But you know, I didn't know what the vibe was in your family.
on my 15-minute drive over to her house, I was thinking like, okay, so if I find the gun, is it going to shoot me in the leg when I pick up the mattress? And her mattress is super low to the ground, so I would have like shot myself basically in the kneecap if it would have went off.
It's not what you want to do. You don't want to shoot yourself in the kneecap. It's not
right. So at least my cousin was there for backup. And then I was like, so if I find the gun, that's fine. And then I was like, but if I find the gun, there's bullets in it. I was like, what do I do with bullets? And then I was like, for me to get the bullets out, I have to handle the gun. And I don't know that I trust myself with this. And then I had to figure out like, do I bury the bullets in the backyard? Like, I'm not supposed to throw them in the trash. I was like, do I flush them down the toilet? I don't know. I had no answers. There's more questions than answers, I guess.
There are a lot of questions here. Yeah. Yeah, and now there are even more. I'm trying to figure out what the most likely option. You could go talk to your uncle, right? You could figure out if he took it. Like we could maybe cross that off the list for next week.
We could. Okay, so my research for the next week, I will try to get more information from the other external sources about the gun.
I'd love to know. Yeah,
Josh, I want you to know, like, if you love a good mystery, I'm pretty sure this mystery might just stay in the ether forever because I don't know that I can get a good answer anymore.
You know what? And I'm okay with that. I feel like every true crime podcast, which is what this is turning into, ends with like, we think we know what the answer is, or do we? And they always have that like forced cliffhanger at the end. I do think though, to since we are something of a public service, maybe we'll say, if you are someone out there who finds a gun and you don't know where it comes from. One, if it's not in your family member's house, just don't touch it. Call the cops or whatever. But two, if it is, if you know whose it is, but you guys just all want to get rid of it, I think you can like take it to the police station and have them dispose of it. I think that's a thing pretty much at any. I think you can surrender a gun and the cops will take care of it. So if you did find it, that would be the thing that I would suggest doing is not touching it very much and making sure that yes, it's not loaded, but like then taking the whole thing to the police and say, please get rid of this. We don't want this anymore. Make this not happen in our lives.
I want you to know that if I find it, I feel like as the executor of the estate, I need to throw the gun in the river, as was requested to me by my grandmother.
You know what? That's fair because yes, you are as the power of attorney. You are supposed to be enacting, like you said, the will of the estate. So if the will of the estate is to throw it in the river, you have a point. You have a point. Now, but I do think as a citizen of the world, it would be your responsibility to make sure it's not armed, to make sure there are no bullets in it before throwing in the river. I think that's the least you can do.
That seems fair. I think if I find it somehow, I think it's probably gone. No one's gonna know where the hell it is somehow. If I do find it though, I think I'm gonna give it a Viking funeral in the river and shoot a flaming arrow at the gun in a boat because that seems fitting. A nice retirement for the gun.
You're really gonna want to make sure it's not loaded before you start firing flaming arrows at it. They're just gonna be popping off everywhere. Yeah. Yeah, that is an interesting. Someone who isn't a gun conundrum owner and doesn't want to be a gun owner, but you were forced to deal with one. I'm just like, okay, here we go. I hope I don't get shot by this.
See, and like the disappointing part is, as a content creator along with you and many forums and medias, like if I do the Viking funeral for it, I terribly, terribly, terribly want to post it online.
Oh my God, yes.
But I feel like I'm going to jail if I do that.
Oh, for sure. You're throwing a gun in the river. That's got to be illegal.
No, I'm setting the boat on fire that the gun is in, and it's disappearing into the water.
That's illegal too, I'm pretty sure. Listen, I don't think firing flaming arrows is a thing that is generally looked upon kindly.
How mad do you think the cops would get if I just went and called them and said, is this legal for me to dispose of a gun in this way? Like, would they just laugh at me, or would they come arrest me and ask me where the gun is and just take it? Because that could be a method of removal then too.
Tell me, what do you think is going to happen if you go ring-a-ling-a-ling? Oh, hey cops, is it cool if I throw a gun in the river? Is that cool?
No, I'm not throwing the gun in the river. I'm giving it a Viking funeral.
Let me start over. I'm sorry. Ring-a-ling-a-ling. Hey cops, is it cool if I throw a gun in the river, but just with some more extra steps involved?
It's a completely different thing. Josh, there's rules here where you can't have a bonfire, but you can have a memorial fire. And a memorial fire means it needs to be contained in a fire pit.
Okay.
But it's still a fire just outside your house. So I feel this is along the same lines of like, you're right, it probably is illegal to throw a gun in the river. But if there's no laws that say I can't do a Viking funeral for the gun, I feel like I'd be safe.
See, I'm thinking you wouldn't be. I'm thinking you're still breaking several laws by doing this.
I'm gonna have to look into this.
Yeah,
I'm gonna look more into that too. I'm gonna send a nice email to my local police.
Right, exactly. You first reach out, don't mention the gun, and ask about the concept of Viking funerals for inanimate objects. Establish the legality of that first. Then introduce, well, what if that inanimate object happened to be a gun?
Do you think I'll end up on a list if I Google right now, can I throw a gun in the lake?
For sure, yeah.
All right, let's test it out.
I think but to be clear, I think you're already on those lists.
Oh, okay, let's see, that's fine then.
Yeah. I did find that one way to properly dispose of firearms, if you give it to the ATF, they cut the gun apart with a blowtorch. Which is pretty wild. They just cut the gun in sections.
See, I could do that, and then I'll put it in a boat, set the boat on fire.
So you're really married to this whole boat idea.
Well, now that I've created it, I feel like it's a great way to really finish this off.
I think so. Yeah, I think that it's reasonable. Certainly not crazy at all.
Speaking of reasonable and crazy, let's do some emails or something.
Our first email comes in from my daughter, Toby, who apparently just asked my wife at bedtime now if you have any friends that you like to sleep with, and she thinks that you probably don't.
Me?
Yes. That was a question she asked, if you had any friends that you sleep with. And
Like,
before anyone takes it to the gutter, she means like stuffed animals.
yeah,
Do you have any?
don't, yeah, idiots. Listen, I'm a very childish 40-year-old. I knew what the kid was asking. Let's not be dumb here.
So Toby, do you have any stuffed animals or other lovies of any kind that you sleep with?
Does the dog count?
I think so. Yeah, I think so. That's a
Then
good one.
we're gonna say the dog, but I do have many plush Mimikyus and Kingdom Hearts Mickeys that could sleep in the bed if they wanted to.
Have you ever curled up with one?
I'm trying to think about what's in here. I'm gonna say nothing that's here. I definitely used to sleep with a giant stuffed Charmander and
Oh,
a giant
nice.
stuffed Dragonite, whatever the big flat fluffy yellow one is.
Dragon Knight is the evolved form.
Yeah, Dratini,
Dratini,
Dragonair.
Dragonair, Dragonite. Yeah.
Yeah, Dragonite, the big fat one.
Yeah.
He was cheap and on sale when I was a teenager, and I was like, I'm buying him. I don't give a shit. So they hung out in bed with me.
Nice. See, I'm not. I don't sleep with a friend of any kind of a plushie, but like I'm not against it. And they make really good like pillows. Like sometimes I like to like grab a pillow and hold it by my side, and but a pillow is too large for that often. So like getting a nice like stuffed animal fits in there really good sometimes. Because I'm not gonna get a body pillow. I'm not ridiculous. I'm gonna
Can
sleep with
you,
like a teddy bear from my childhood.
when you answer her question, and you better answer her question,
I will
tell
obviously.
her I specifically said I sleep with a Kingdom Hearts Organization 13 robe Mickey. And
You
I want you to let her ask any question she wants to, and you have to answer them.
How dare you? How dare you force me to introduce Kingdom Hearts to my child?
Does she like Disney?
Um,
Does she
she's
know
not.
Mickey Mouse?
She knows Mickey Mouse.
Good enough.
She's
Let's go.
she's not like the biggest fan of like classical Disney like that. Like
Oh,
she.
this isn't classical Disney, Josh. This is very brand new. Kingdom
What,
Hearts 4 comes out next year, probably.
I was saying like she has watched Mickey Mouse Clubhouse, so she knows all the characters, but it's not like probably her top thing.
Mi-
But she would know
Mickey,
everybody.
good. So Mickey Mouse Clubhouse, the little heart that's on top of Minnie's house, looks very much like the Kingdom Hearts logo. Just for the record.
Oh, okay, she's in then. I don't
Let her know.
With her, Toby, to give you her follow-up answer, a friend that she sleeps with can be pretty much anything, even trash sometimes. Sometimes she just latches on to like a paper towel roll or something, and you're like, well, I'll throw that away for you. And she's like, no, I love it. And you're like, okay, all right. Well, I guess we're sleeping with that for the next week then. Sure.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Anyway, jumping into actual emails here. We have one email this week comes in from our friend Kieran. And Kieran also is talking about Mickey Mouse. Kieran says, if it hasn't clicked yet, the Mickey Mouse ears on Venom Mariner are mushrooms. Just think Toad from Mario.
See, that's kind of what it looked like, but then I
Yeah.
wasn't sure.
Yeah, I think you maybe were going that route. We may have talked about that. I think you maybe said mushrooms, if I remember correctly.
I'll say yes.
Yeah, I think. Listen, when in doubt, just say that you knew the answer. Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, the Mad Pirates wild form was used during Gotchard's cameo in the Geats summer movie, so they have got a bit more use out of it. So that's cool. So because we were talking about like that thing is on screen for like less than 2 seconds, it feels like. But yeah, apparently it was in the movie too, so that's fun.
So
I
it
wish.
was more like the throwback joke we were making of like the old items and promo items and everything else in the episodes.
Yeah.
So just
think,
like,
yeah.
oh wow, look, it's back again just for a little bit. How cool.
Yeah, it's like the when the split form showed up in X-Aid after it was in the movie, but now that just is there all the time. Like that's his main thing he uses. Anyway, that's an X-Aid aside. But yes, I do really wish the movies were something that we got to see like concurrently as they came out. Like I wish I could have went to see that movie when it came out so I could watch it right then. So then I would have already known this when we get into this. Because by the time it actually, gets translated and comes out on Blu-ray, it's like so far after the fact. You gotta like reset your brain back to the right time.
Yeah, it's too far gone now. It's gone to the ether.
Yeah, we're over Geats. We're done with it. Now we've moved on.
Exactly. I've moved forward and also moved back. That's why I like Gotchard and Xaid.
There you go. And then next, Kieran gives us way more benefit of the doubt than we deserve, because Kieran says, as you can probably figure by now, and anytime you start a sentence like that, as you can probably figure by now, the chemis are split into different types. 10 types, each with 10 cards. I did not figure that out, Kieran. This is news to me. This is the first time hearing about it.
That does explain why there's 10 per screen in the little lab, though.
Yep, and it explains why they have different like colors and stuff. It all makes sense once you say it, but my feeble brain had not put any of this together yet. 6 of those types are featured in Phase 1 cards, and as of the last episode, they've all appeared in the show. So Kieran says, I think I'm safe to mention them. So Toby, the types are...
Let's do it.
We have insect.
That makes sense.
Vehicle.
Okay.
Job. Kieran says, I think a pirate is stretching the term a little. so
Wait, so which ones are jobs then?
So I'll look some up to give you some examples after this, but that's
okay.
With one category's job. Plant is a category.
Okay, so like mushrooms and stuff.
Yep. Artifact, which Kieran says is random objects like energy drinks.
Okay.
And the last one we've seen so far is animal. So insect and animal, separate categories.
I mean, they are in real life too.
That's fair. You know what? That's fair. You got me there. So let's see. Some of the ones maybe we've seen before. So like Ant Trooper is an insect, obviously. Some of the jobs.
Those are the ones I want specifically.
If you remember Odorupa from like the first episode or second episode, which was like a weird Pokemon with fans on its hands and stuff, has like a weird like genie hat. That's one of the jobs. Our good new friend Wrestler G from this episode is a job.
That one makes sense.
Also from this episode, Bullet Bang is one of the jobs. Sasuke Maru is a job. Apari Bushido is one.
So basically, jobs almost means human.
Almost, yeah. Pretty much like a version of the magician, Doki Rimajin.
Yeah, the gambler magician, yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, it's pretty much like a human, a warped version of a human.
Okay,
under the
that
job
works.
Category, yeah. And then vehicles is like Mad Wheel and Gold Ash, and so on. So those are the ones we have so far. And Kieran then goes on to say, as I switch tabs back here, all the cards have their symbol next to their name, but unlike the ones in the show, the actual cards also have a different symbol at the bottom of the card to show what it pairs with. So Hopper 1, for example, has the vehicle symbol at the bottom.
That's interesting.
That is interesting, yeah. Obviously, that leaves 4 more types. It'll probably be a while until they show up, so I won't say what they are. Instead, I thought I'd leave it to you. What do you think the other types could be? Feel free to go as crazy with your ideas. This is Kamen Rider we're talking about.
All right, so wait. So plants, insects, humans with jobs.
Artifact, it's like objects. And vehicles.
So what was the 6th one then?
Vehicle.
I still have 5 somehow.
So insect, vehicle, job, plant, artifact, animal.
Oh, animal. Okay. All right.
So I think that, one, vehicle, the picture is of a vehicle with wheels. Maybe we split out like airplanes, or we split out boats. Maybe those are separate things.
Okay. So depending on the type of transportation they use.
I'm just saying, maybe. Yeah.
Okay, that seems fair. Plants, insects.
We have so we have insect, and you schooled me on insects not being animals. Fish aren't animals, right? Fish are a different thing. We can have
we can
have fish.
Fish makes sense. I was thinking of the watery things. So there could be an octopus still.
There could be, yeah. Absolutely.
I guess food takes objects. Like if energy drink is an object.
Or maybe that could fall under plant. I don't know.
I feel like they do a good job yet in most of the categories. What if they
right?
What if they do like famous people?
So one thing I did go and look at, if you
Was
remember
the answer, and
no, I didn't go look at the answer. I went back to look at the Phase Zero cards. Um, that set that had just a few cards in it, not very many, just like a little sampling. Because specifically, the Phase Zero cards had special cards for like Kamen Rider Zero One, Kamen Rider Saber. They had a lot of the the Gates riders, so like they
those
actually
ones look
had
cool. I saw those,
yeah, so those are all really cool. I went back to look at what symbols those had, thinking like, oh, maybe like Rider is a symbol.
or like
But at least
Legacy, or
yeah. But at least in those cards, each one had their own symbol. So, like for example, like Kamen Rider Nago, the card has like Nago's face as the symbol.
okay, so we
Um,
rule those out.
Rule those out entirely. Yeah. Um,
You
it
know,
is pretty cool
for
though.
this being for this being such a wild, open ended question, I feel like the answers are very hard.
I know. Yes. Like of all the things, because like try to think of anything you'd put on a card, and I feel like it falls into one of those categories. Weirdly.
Yeah, like so we'll say water animal is a vague one,
Yeah.
and then I think you're right with the vehicles. If it has wheels or not wheels, I could see like helicopter, airplane, whatever, or boat, sub. No, what was the dive man?
The Dive Man? Oh, yeah, you're
The
right. He was
submarine that
probably
was trying to sleep with Kudo.
You're totally right. Yeah, he was probably already a vehicle, wasn't he? Let's see if we can find that real fast. Trying to pull up the Rider Cards website here again. All right. So he's not Wrestler G, we know. All right, I'm up to the vehicles here now. He is, yeah, he's a vehicle. He's Deep Mariner. He's a vehicle,
Okay, so
and we
then
also there's also we haven't seen it yet, but there's a oh no, we have seen it. So I believe Spanner uses a helicopter card.
oh yeah, this is the crazy propeller.
Yep. So rules those out.
I
I
don't
do
know.
think I think you were onto something with food, because like yes, the energy drink is an object, but like I think that and plant doesn't quite fit for food. I think there's going to be a category for like, here's a bento box or something. Like here's an animated version of a bento box.
Yeah, because even looking at like, I figured the best way to do this, to at least vaguely try to give myself an idea. I was looking at charades categories, because
Nice.
like person,
That's a
place,
good idea.
thing,
Yeah.
but they're all too specific. Like the internet's hardcore failing me on this right now, and not giving me like the general categories. It's just giving me specific charade hint ideas, whatever you want to call it.
Okay.
So like this one has like riding a horse, boarding an airplane, fishing in a boat. Like none of these are helping me. It's just telling me things, and I don't want that. I want like the OG categories, like person, place, thing,
What if
animal.
what if they added a category that is like that's like historical moment or something, and then you just had cards that were like World War II.
See, like that makes sense. That would work.
Yeah, I like that.
I don't know. This is actually,
I feel weirdly stumped by this. Yeah.
yeah. I like fish is the only one I think we can actually. Birds,
Yeah, I guess you could do. Yeah, you could
flying
do.
animals.
I think fish. I think like aquatic animals would happen before birds. That's my call.
I just don't know. This is a tough one.
I'm excited to find out. Also, this is a fun one that I think it sounds like people can just look up and find out, but what we don't know. So
Yeah, no
it's
one
pretty
tell
great.
us. I'm not gonna look it up. I'm gonna forget all about this until someone reminds me down the road.
Yeah, so Kieran, you have to write in and tell us how wrong we were when they're all revealed in the show. And again, when we don't notice because we forget that they're in categories. All right, what's gonna do it for us for emails for this week? If you guys want to send an email in like Kieran did and school us on things of the show or point out things that we miss, or generally just send us any missives that you like, send those over to cast@commonwritersucks.com. That's the email address. And yeah, if you send it, we will more than likely read it on the show. Toby, we can jump into discussion now because I'm very excited to talk about this episode with you.
I am sure you are.
This episode 5, features things that I think are near and dear to both of our hearts: wrestling and Yakuza.
Exactly. And there's a lot of both somehow.
Yes, indeed. But we'll start here at the top. So the episode opens and our intrepid hero Hotaro he's just the best boy. Toby. He woke up early to help his mom
Because he was slacking off the night before.
he was slacking off a little bit the night before. But his mom, of course, tells him like, "No, you don't have to." And then she starts asking him how the club he's in is going, and he's like, "It's great. I've made lots of friends." But first of all, you haven't made lots of friends, Hoto. You made like one friend, and then you have two other weirdos who you traded cards with, or who wanted to trade cards with you. Like that. I don't know if we can count friends yet, but
If he was younger, they would be his friends. Because like
that's
kindergarten, first grade, like whoever you meet is your friend.
instantly friends. Yeah,
And he's
at this
very
point,
he's very pure and young on the inside. So I think that seems fair.
he is. And the big revelation here is that the mom says when Kudo was in the restaurant, Kudo was talking the mom up about how helpful Hotaro had been to her. She'd like learned so much from him, and he gets a little like embarrassed, like kind of like, oh, she's the one who's teaching me things. So they're
Well, not
really.
even that. I think it's funny that now she goes to just. I took it as she goes there just to eat now.
It seemed
Even when
like it because he was serving her the first night she came, and then the mom was like acting as if like she had a private conversation.
yeah. So that's kind of funny that like obviously they're starting to tease the will they won't they.
Oh,
so
they are. Yeah.
so now that Kudo's like pulling his mom aside and it's like, yeah, your son's pretty nice, just so you know. He's a good guy. We're driving home early.
They're working on it. Um, they also drive it home a little bit later in the episode when Hotaro like finally notices that the numbers add up to 10 when he uses them to henshin. He was like, "Oh, we got number 1 over here for Hopper, number 9 over here for Steamliner. They add up to 10. Holy crap!"
So I laughed at that part because that was pretty much the same way I had that conversation with you of like, hey, the two numbers go together. That makes sense. And then it was told to me later that in the transformation course for this season, they specifically called out during transformation course.
Yeah, 100% like unequivocally explain it in the transformation course. And then in the actual show, he's like 5 episodes deep before he notices.
So I was upset. But that's also Navigator's job to keep me in check like that. So
yeah, I'm always happy when they don't contradict the transformation course, but they 100% contradicted here. Or maybe Hotaro had a head injury. I don't know and forgot about it. But before that happened, so yeah, so I guess to get to the will they won't they part of that, the friends come in. The Ringu, is that her name? Ringe, I think her name's Ringe.
yeah, it's almost like
and
Ridge,
Sabi.
but Ringe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They show up and basically Sabi Maru, the quiet one, notes that the names of Hotaro and Kudo have the numbers 1 and 9 in them.
That was amazing. It was amazing in the sense of how stupid it was, because it's like it's the equivalent of like people doing real like astrology or numerology, where it's like, oh, your sign is this, and your true life number is this, and your friendship number is this.
Yeah, exactly. I always like it when people do the thing of just like, wow, if you take your so it's always math where the answer is always the same no matter what you start with, like whatever it is, right? Where it's like, oh, if you take your birth year and then you add 40 and subtract 10
And you
then
flip it
divide
around,
by
divide
4
by
and then subtract your birth year, it's this number. And everyone's like, whoa. It's like, but it's always gonna be the same because we added and then we subtracted the same thing. It doesn't. Yeah, that's what that reminded me of. But yes, they're even their names, Toby. Their names belie that they are a perfect match.
Well, what part of so I understand the each for one in Hotaro's name. That part I get. Where does 9 come from for Kudo?
What is 9 in Japanese?
I don't know.
Well, look it up.
Nine I'm going to.
Because her
You
name
asked
was
me.
like Rene Kudo, so maybe it's the Rene part.
It looks like it's Kyu, Kyu, and
All right,
there's a fancy thing on the.
then maybe when you write out her name, the script looks like a 9 or something weird like that. I don't know.
So the best I can give you, it says that I was counting on Japanese. It says Kyu or Ku is the phonetic for 9
There you go.
in hiragana.
So
So
Kyudo.
yeah, so 9, whatever. Okay, so
There
it
we go.
checks out.
Yeah.
It all checks out, everybody. No one else has to look it up. I got it.
No one else has to send us an email and tell us.
I figured it out, guys.
But before we get to that, back to that academy, I just wanted to jump ahead and talk about the 1 and 9 there. But before we get back to the academy, we were introduced with
Well, Nate, so hold on then. So
Okay.
like all the other cards combined and make the Super 10 magic power thing.
Uh-huh.
Like if they combined, is the 10 power like having a child?
Listen, when a number 1 and a number 9
they really love each other
very much. They go in either side of the Gotchard driver, and mommy and daddy make a gotcha. And 9 months later, a new Kemi is born. Pretty sure that's how it works.
that's the missing category, babies.
Yeah, I will say, I think that if Hotaro and Kudo got together, they'd make a wild form for sure. But anywho, we skipped over the introduction of one of the best characters in this episode, which is Goriki the Golem, portrayed by professional wrestler Yukio Naya, who is
Thank you. Because
who's
the
in
first
DDT.
the first thing I typed was, Josh, what wrestler is it?
Yeah, he's an actual wrestler. If you don't keep up with wrestling, DDT is a wrestling promotion in Japan that stands for Dramatic Dream Team. But DDT is super interesting because they are the adventuresome, like inventive, weird promotion, I guess I'll say. So like they have regular matches, they have regular shows, just like any other wrestling promotion would be. But they also have these shows and these matches that are just off the wall that only this company could pull off. So like for example, they do a lot of matches that are not in wrestling rings. For example, they had one fairly recently that was on a bullet train. They just had a series of wrestling matches going up and down the cars of a bullet train. They've had them like at campgrounds, out in the woods, going down water slides, like all kinds of stuff like that. It's just the wrestlers go out in their full wrestling gear and just nonsense ensues. They've had them in like buildings, like where they had to climb the floors of the building and wrestle as they went up. They also have matches frequently that involve inanimate objects. In one in particular is a blow up doll, for example. And they also have a championship that is always being competed for. So, for example, you can like find someone backstage, knock them down, and pin them, and then you win the championship if they had it. And that championship has been um, on all kinds of different people. One time a ladder held it. um, all kinds of crazy stuff has happened. Usually that championship, if it shows up, will change hands like 4 or 5 times on a single show, in just really like ridiculous ways. So
I
they're
want to make
nuts.
sure I want to make sure that people knew that like a broom and a ladder and things like that have held the DDT championship. That was gonna be the only part I was gonna make sure that you hit on.
A broom and a ladder. I have held the DDT super heavyweight championship. Sorry, is it super heavyweight or just heavyweight? I think it's anyway. Whatever. Technically, I've held that championship because at one point, if you were watching one of their shows live, which I was, they had a big thing where wrestlers were like pinning each other, trading the championship back and forth. They knocked over the camera, and the camera fell forward onto the wrestler. The camera pinned the wrestler. So the entire live audience watching the show that day became communally the heavyweight champion, the DDT heavyweight champion. And then quickly someone pinned the camera and took it back off of the audience. but it's like ridiculous stuff like that. It's super fun. They do all kinds of stuff. Anyway, this guy is one of the wrestlers in DDT. Um, his ring gear is interesting as well. It almost looks inspired by Gotchard because the like right in his chest he has like two things that to me look like they are two halves of the Gotchard cards. So I don't know if that was on purpose or that's just a fun little happenstance. But anyway, yes, he is an actual professional wrestler in an actual professional wrestling promotion.
I want other people to know, coming from the Toby side of this, in a large swath of the Yakuza games, there's a guy that's called Mr. Shakedown.
Yep.
And all he does is beat the hell out of people and take your money. He's very jacked and has camo pants on and looks much like this guy does as well.
He does look a lot like Mr. Shakedown. You're right. I hadn't connected that, but I've been playing the first Yakuza game lately, so I'm well
Josh
versed.
is coming down the hole.
Yeah, well versed in Mr. Shakedown now. there was a day where it was after one like weekend sale on Steam, and I messaged you. I'm like, I just bought every Yakuza game.
It's the way you don't just buy one; you buy them all. That's the best.
I bought them all. Yeah, I bought 0 through 7. So yeah, I was in pretty deep. But yeah, so the golem here is just walking down the street, clearly looking for a fight. Someone bumps into him, and he does get into a fight, and he just snaps off a quick backbreaker. Just that's not what you want to see in a street fight. Is just someone pick you up, spin you around, and execute a punishing backbreaker.
It was a hell of a move, though. It looked good, almost like he's a professional.
Certainly was. Then, of course, the friends at the academy that we were just talking about, they all decide basically to go off and hunt Kemis together. And the place that they track the Kemi to is the Asahi Wrestling Gym. So they show up at a building. They go inside. It's got a wrestling ring in it, and they're kind of like looking around for the Kemi when the owner shows up, tries to fight them because he thinks they're Yakuza.
and that's the fantastic part as it goes through that is they talk about the fact that the wrestling school is built on basically like Yakuza land, we'll call it, or some sort of territory of a Yakuza plot. And Yakuza 0, 1,
it's the plot to that,
2
yeah.
is the whole premise is there's an empty lot that everyone wants to buy and no one can find the deed for. But it's like the most crucial, like 6 foot by 6 foot square piece of cement in the whole city. And they made a whole game out of fighting over the stupid empty lot. So all I could think of was this is like the plot truly of Yakuza with just some Kamen Riders running around instead.
Yeah, I too was very excited about that because that's Kamen Rider. Or, sorry, that's the plot of 0, which I'm in right now. So it was like, oh my god, they really do fight over random land. Because yeah, in that game, if you haven't played it, it's like that plot. At least where I'm at so far, maybe there's more to the story later, but like they explain that plot is so important because like the rest of the city is like locked down, like filled to the brim, and that's an open plot that's left, and they're trying to buy up the whole town, and that's like the one plot that they can't buy up or haven't been able to buy so far.
It's like if you're playing Monopoly and you
Yes.
have 2 of the 3 dark green pieces, and you're like, there's only 2 greens. If you have like 2 of the 3 reds or oranges, and you're like, man, I really need Illinois Avenue. And you're just, there's a big rumble with you and your friends. Everyone's fighting for this last little piece. You have a monopoly on that street. It's the same vibe.
That really is
guns and murder.
I hadn't connected the Monopoly portion of it, but it 100% is just Monopoly. Yeah. Once we realize that the kids aren't Yakuza, I believe Ringe even says that she's there to train for pro wrestling. She's excited about it.
She wants to be a wrestling girl, and she got all excited.
A wrestling girl. The actual Yakuza show up, and they're ready to kick some ass and steal some land. And then we find out the dumbest rule of alchemy, which is you can't use it against humans. What? What's the point of alchemy if you can't use it against humans?
It's the same way it works in Harry Potter. You can't use magic against non-wizards.
Harry Potter's dumb too, okay? If I had magic, I'd use it against every muggle I saw.
You tell him.
I guess that maybe does make me like Voldemort at that point. But still, I'd still do it. As they're having their little standoff with the Yakuza, though, Wrestler G comes to save the day. Wrestler G is a Kemi, but he's an action figure. He's just an action figure who's flying
Literally the
around.
best point. Literally the best point is it's just like a decent, shitty, like $20 wrestling figure, and when it moves and no one's quote unquote holding it, you never see below like his waist slash knees because someone's just holding it in front of the camera and making it move and dance or whatever you want to say it does.
I find it so adorable that their physical object representation of Kemis so far have been so low budget. Like like the eyeballs on Skibo was amazing when he was a skateboard, and now the fact that Wrestler G was just a knockoff action figure held by a human up in front of the camera, so good, just perfect.
They
No
have a lot of
notes.
ideas here. They have a lot of ideas.
They really do. Wrestler G knocks out all the gangsters very, very quickly there. Turns out that Wrestler G, we find out later, is basically Asahi's tag partner. He's like his little mascot buddy who is keeping his spirits up, which is very cute, very cool. The Yakuza aren't done though. They all pull out guns, which is
Real
crazy.
guns.
Yeah, because like where are that many people getting guns in Japan? Do they, I don't. Is that a thing? Listen,
If they're Yakuza, then yeah, of course they have them.
do they have? Wait. So I'm only in Yakuza 0 so far. In the games, do they have guns? They don't have guns, right? That's why they fight fist to fist.
No, everyone has guns other than Kiryu because Kiryu doesn't kill people, which starts a whole. You'll get there. There's a whole there's a whole line of mental jokes you'll make to yourself because when you start doing heat moves and he does things like stabs him with the chest with a sword. There's a good one where you throw him over a railing of a building and they drop like 100 feet. Like he doesn't literally kill people, but you can make him kill people with the heat moves.
That's like I'm already kind of there. Like there was one the big kind of climax to the first part of that game is you're like fighting your way up the headquarters basically of your building, and like there's a fight in the bathroom specifically where you like smash people's heads through a freaking sink and stuff. Like those people are dead. Like you've murdered them. Like you haven't shot them, but they're for sure dead.
There's heat moves when you have a gun that involves him shooting them 3 or 4 times, like dead in the chest or in the face. But Kiryu doesn't kill people, Josh. Just remember that.
Kind of like Batman in the Arkham games. It's like, listen, Batman doesn't kill people; he just cripples them for life.
Yeah,
yeah.
There's a fine line there.
Okay, there is a line though early on in the first game where like someone asks Kiryu where he got a piece from, like where he got a gun from, because they think that he murdered someone. So like, it's common knowledge that he doesn't have a gun at that point, I guess.
Yeah.
Okay, because he just doesn't kill people.
Exactly.
So what you're telling me, Toby, is that in a country where there are no guns, it's easy to get guns?
when you're on the underground, of course, Josh.
Only the bad guys will have guns when guns are illegal, apparently. Apparently it was true this whole time.
They found him in the river, man. They found him in the river.
I was speaking of our gun conversation. I believe Shade commented last week that he was saying like, you guys don't know how weird it is to hear people like casually talk about guns when you don't live in the US.
Like,
and I know, yeah, exactly. Like as someone who like grew up around guns but now is not into them at all, I 100% understand how weird it is. It's weird for me too. So yes, the Yakuza pull out guns, and Hotaro, to defend everyone, he asks Renge for Kemis. The 2 Kemis that he gets basically are the bullet bang Kemi and kind of like a flower Kemi, if I remember correctly. And
it's a butterfly. It's a butterfly.
Oh, butterfly. Okay, thank you. He puts them together, and he turns into a gun.
the most random of things.
In full Transformers mode, he just turns into a gun, which is great. And then then Kudo fires him, and he basically like butterflies and flowers is what shoots out of the Kamen Rider gun.
They all get distracted. Some would say it's a bullet with butterfly wings. Some would say.
Is that what it was?
Oh, it was a Smashing Pumpkins joke, Josh.
Are you someone? I don't know anything about the Smashing
Pumpkins.
Oh
my God.
You know what I know about the Smashing Pumpkins? That they suck.
Josh, The World is a Vampire song is bullet with butterfly wings.
You know what? I don't like Billy Corgan. He sucks. and I think the Smashing Pumpkins suck. In turn, Billy Corgan, maybe he was fine when he was younger, the Smashing Pumpkins, but now he does wrestling and he sucks.
Okay.
Those are my those are my stances. I didn't have strong opinions about the Smashing Pumpkins until he got into wrestling. Then I started having strong opinions. But I love that they continue to do weird stuff, transforming Hotaro into weird things. Like, he's a pirate Mario Kart. He's a gun. This is all good. It's all good
Well,
stuff.
like, especially because we made the joke in the beginning ish of, hey, they can make a lot of combinations of 1s and 9s and 2s and 8s, and I wonder how many combinations there are. And you would assume they would stick to only a couple of, it's always going to be the Steam Train and Hopper 1 or whatever else. But they're pretty good about having a new combination every episode now as well.
Yeah, they've really been, or multiples even. Like, they've really been bouncing those around, which I appreciate. After the Yakuza run off Toby, Goriki the Golem shows up, and he pretty quickly turns into a Malgam. He is even more fearsome in his Malgam form. He and Hotaro fight, and I thought that a really funny part of that was the two friends from school are just utterly shocked that Hotaro is a Kamen Rider.
And I guess it never came up before, but I assume they all knew he was a Kamen Rider and not just a nerd hanging out in an alchemy club.
Yeah, just like this random guy shows up at Alchemy. I guess thinking back, like, he only ever talked about being Kamen Rider, and he only ever transformed in front of the Minato teacher and in front of Kudo. So, like, I guess he never did in front of them. But it was a very funny little throwaway, like, what? You're the Kamen Rider.
Treasure Boy. Treasure Boy's a Kamen Rider.
Yeah.
And he just says, sorry, I forgot to tell you guys, and just runs away.
Yeah, just runs out to continue his fight.
But the best part of this week's Amalgam is the fact that his face is just a giant fist.
Yeah, it's like the SmackDown set circa like 2005 or whatever. It's just a giant fist busting out of the mummy. And we always talk about the extra hands. He didn't really need too many extra hands because his face is a hand. He's got one right there. Very good. So the Amalgam, formerly known as Goriki, once again hits the windmill backbreakers, just completely murdering Hotaro here. And who shows up to save the day but Mr. Spanner?
The big jerk.
Big Jerk chases Goriki off, and the Big Jerk continues on to basically demand the Wrestler G Chemi card from Mr. Asahi. However, all the kids basically stand up and say, no, you're not going to take it from him. It's his friend. It's his partner.
We're going to have a 4v1, motherfucker.
Yeah, they say, like, it's 3 versus 1, and then Kudo steps up, and she's like, actually, it's 4 versus 1.
Did you notice that the monster calls everyone baby faces a lot?
Yeah, I did notice that. It was good. It was good. He even says, like, I'll be back for you tomorrow, baby face, or whatever. Yeah. Like, after their first fight. Yeah. Then we find out Goriki's backstory. He's basically just a jerk. Like, that's really what it boils down to. It seems like he got into wrestling just to hurt people, and that's what he'd been doing. Is he'd hurt people. He'd injured, maybe paralyzed one of his training partners, so that no one wanted to come and train. And sounded like he'd even been in prison for his assault that he's perpetrated on people. So really, just a bad dude, just out to hurt some people. And that was enough malice to turn into Amalgam, I guess.
That seems like a lot. That seems fair.
Yeah. And because, of course, of the Goriki nightmare, no one wants to show up to train with Asahi, so his gym is kind of in ruin. And we find out that when he was a younger man, he portrayed the wrestler Sunshine Mask, which is great. Hotaro, of course, got completely flummoxed by the windmill backbreaker. He needs to train in wrestling. He needs to learn how to counter Goriki's windmill backbreaker. And the only way that he can do that is if Wrestler G takes over the body of Asahi, bringing back Sunshine Mask.
And the best part, and like it would basically turn into like a 3 or 4 minutes like Rocky training montage of
Yep.
just him taking like spinning windmill backbreakers over and over and over, coming off the ropes. It was just this whole episode is high levels of cheesiness and corniness, and the
Oh, so
dumb
much.
like Rocky training montage was like the icing on top of the cake.
Well, like first of all, incredibly cheesy, but like hilarious and great. That like this little action figure wrestler G, this little Chemi card wrestler G, just morphs the body of a grown man to turn him into a professional masked wrestler, which is great. Uh, and then yes, also like the training montage, super cheesy, super hilarious. Uh, but I also really loved it because yeah, it's like just backbreaker after backbreaker after backbreaker. It's very funny to watch. But Hotaro, really gives it his all. He gets super sweaty. His hair is like all like in his face. It is like the amount of fighting spirit that goes on in this scene is so hilariously high. Which is like it's a Japanese pro wrestling concept basically that like it's also like kind of like a shonen anime thing, right? Like if you just like really try really hard, you can get stronger.
If you get spirit bombed enough, one day you can take one without getting hurt.
Exactly. So Hotaro finally finds the fighting spirit deep within him and learns how to spin his body at the right moment and counter the windmill backbreaker. Uh, but Go Ricky returns the next day. He returns like he said he would for the fight
The big
against
match.
against Hotaro, the big match. And big match it is, Toby, because it starts in the wrestling ring. They full on do a wrestling match. They're like squaring up just like you would in wrestling. Hotaro henshins. He has Wrestler G as one of his cards, and he has Ant Trooper on the other, and he becomes Ant Wrestler.
I
Go ahead.
though, so just with the cards, when they showed him getting his suit combination for mixing those two together, maybe I just haven't really noticed or thought about the past couple episodes. Do they always make them in the beaker in the alchemy lab like that?
I think so. I think it was more extended in this episode, but
Maybe that's why I noticed it more.
yeah, because they did like the shot from above that went down into the beaker, and like they bounced around a bit more.
Okay, yeah.
But I think his henshins have always been cut away to the beaker scene while they combine the two things. But they definitely made it more obvious, which is cool. I thought it looked really awesome this time.
Yeah.
I haven't been on board always with the like cutaway pure CG henshins. Like Saber did that as well, like pretty early on, and I thought there they looked kind of dumb. But here I think they look pretty cool, and I think that this one especially looked really cool. I think it also helps here that like there's a lot of crazy wackiness going on, like with the chemis being basically Pokemon, so it fits a little bit better. But like I said, the fight happens here. It's an awesome little wrestling match. Wrestler G actually like pops out of the driver and like powers Asahi back up to become the young Sunshine Mask once again. So we've got some real like tag team action here going on now. Everybody goes home happy for the big win. And this was really the culmination of just like how ridiculous and goofy this whole episode was. I loved it. I loved that as part of this with the whole Wrestler G taking over Asahi, that was their way to introduce that like chemis respond to more than just malice. Like they respond to very strong other human emotions too, and can do positive things, which definitely will be a thing I think they will continue to use as the show goes on. And I'm very excited to see like what other transformations people have with the chemis that they hang out with.
Yeah, especially with there being like the happy ones too. I feel like there's tons of room, tons of wiggle room here now for like they could basically do anything.
It almost feels like some of the like the fun of Xaid we're finding a lot of times too is like the ridiculous ways in which people come down with the game illness and like their emotions and how to make them happy that they have to go through. It almost feels like we'll get a lot of that too, of just like oh my god, I love wrestling so much. I'm powered up by this wrestling chemi. So we're probably gonna get someone who's like, I just love cooking sushi so much that I'm gonna get powered up by this sushi chemi. There's probably gonna be a lot of ridiculousness like that. And then, of course, to wrap things up here, Goriki is defeated. Minato finally comes on the scene. He erases Go Ricky's memory and says basically he's going to jail. And then in a truly sad moment, this was actually very incredibly sad. I was shocked at how sad they made this. Wrestler G is being basically turned over. Asahi's not going to keep him anymore. And Asahi is having his memory erased, so he doesn't remember his time with Wrestler G. Kudo says this is the one rule they can't break as alchemists, um, which again, ridiculous. But it is, like I said, genuinely super sad. Like Asahi is like walking back to his gym. Wrestler G is like calling out for him, like the card is like following him and calling out for him. Mr. Asahi like stops and is like, this isn't a place for you anymore. But then like softens up and is like, but thank you. Thanks for helping me. Thanks for showing me that I can still do it. And then like it just kind of ends with like Wrestler G just like sobbing, watching Asahi walk away. Like
it was crazy because like it's like when Pikachu's sad, and you're just
yes.
like you can hear in Pikachu's silly little voice like distress or sadness or upsetness, and they basically had a card of a master wrestler basically sobbing, just going wrestler, wrestler.
Yeah, I couldn't believe, for as like silly and fun as this episode was, I couldn't believe how quickly they turned that on a dime for me and made me actually be genuinely sad at
It's
the
like
end.
when Bergman dies in X-Aid.
Yes, exactly. 100%. Yeah. Like, and I'm happy we'll probably get to see a lot more Wrestler G because I bet Ant Wrestler is a pretty common form because he looks very cool. But boy, that was, yeah, they're really tugging on the old heartstrings here pretty quickly. And they all the kids look really sad about it too because they're watching this like weird old Yeller situation going on in front of them.
Yeah, they knew it was a tough time for everybody.
They did. They did. I feel like we could have bent our one rule for poor Mr. Asahi, who now has to go back and won't even remember his time with his lovely friend Wrestler G.
Rules are
but
for a reason.
but Wrestler G will remember Toby. That's the especially sad part. Wrestler G will remember Asahi, but Asahi won't remember him. It's deep. That's deep right
It is deep.
there. So yeah, so clearly I loved this episode. This was super super fun. Yeah, obviously hit my interests. Right on the head, being wrestling focused and all that fun stuff. But it was just like super fun too. Like it is. Um, I think that they're doing a really good job of being silly, but not completely too far gone where I can't take it uh, seriously. And I think that they're doing a good job of the character relationships too. Like they're doing the like will they won't they for Hotaro and Kudo, but they're taking it pretty slow. Like they're not going over the top with that with their interaction so far. And I like the integration of the other two students into like the group. I love them running around like a freaking Scooby Doo gang to catch chemis. That's super fun. Um, I think you and I had already talked about the fact that like it's cool. Kudo is kind of on the front lines fighting with him, and I loved getting to see the other two students go out and track down the chemis with them too. I hope that's always the case where like they're very often around for all those things. So super cool. I'm thoroughly liking this episode. How about
Well,
you?
the crazy outgoing one definitely seems like more gung ho for anything.
For
Because
sure.
especially she's like, I want to be a wrestling girl, and she's like, this is the excitement that wrestling brings you. So she definitely seems ready for anything.
Yeah, she'll put on her weird costume. She'll go be a wrestling girl. Who knows what she's gonna get up to? And we did find out the two of them were pretty effective because they'd caught a lot of chemis. They showed them off at the beginning of the episode. They had a whole slew of chemis they'd caught. So they clearly can hold their own, much like Kudo can. We just haven't actually like seen it on screen yet.
Well, yeah, and again, they're doing the from the beginning. It seemed like okay, we get introduced to 2 or 3 cards at a time. They kind of spaced them out, but especially with them grabbing their own random ones every time,
Yeah,
they'll have all of the chemis way quicker than I assumed that the show would acknowledge they have all the chemis. So the back half of this season should be way more like end times battle than I expected.
yeah, and I hope we get to the point where he is just like bouncing through cards like crazy. Like Like, like when we go back and revisit the ones we've seen before, I hope he's like jumping between forms a lot, and I hope he's busting out like wild forms like crazy. Because they already are kind of doing them a lot, and yeah, we're just getting introduced to a lot of the cards. So like once we have them all, yeah, I hope battles with at that point are just insane.
Well, especially like it's setting up for like the final battle. Like we saw, it was the first X-Aid movie we watched, and when all like the guest riders were there, they showed like all of their 7 forms,
Yeah,
all in like 20 seconds of fight a person. So this definitely has a potential now for the ending to be very like, this guy is too tough. Watch me burn through all 20 forms that I have and do all sorts of the
for
crazy
sure.
finishers from each form and everything else.
For sure. I'm excited about that. All right. Any other final thoughts about episode 5 here?
I don't think so.
All right. Well, that's going to do it for us for this episode. Again, if you want to send us in an email, we would love to have those email messages. Send those over to cast@commonwritersucks.com. And of course, we have a Patreon too. If you like what we're doing here, you're going to love what's over on the Patreon. One of our main things we do is our Watch and React series, which is kind of like our version of Mystery Science Theater, but for tokusatsu. So we're watching through old Kamen Rider series from the past. We've done Kamen Rider Black Sun, and now we're working through Kamen Rider X-Aid. Toby and I watch the episodes. You watch them along with us, and you get to hear the things we think and the jokes that we make as we watch the shows. It's been a lot of fun going through that stuff so far. And if you join the Patreon for just $3 a month, you get access to all of that right away. All of Black Sun, all of X-Aid up to we are currently at so far. You also get access to our Discord. You get access to Ramblecast podcast as well. All kinds of stuff. Best value in tokusatsu. I am calling it right now.
Yeah.
So check that out, patreon.com/the comment writers, also linked in the description here. So yeah, that is going to wrap us up. Toby, where can the people find you on the internet?
On Twitter, it's at Life of Tobes, and on YouTube, it's Tobes Plays, where Josh, we are currently having Five Nights Fest, where I'm going to try to run through all of the Five Nights at Freddy's games because the movies are coming out, and this seems like the best time to jump on a 10-year-old trend.
There's a movie coming out?
What? How are you this disconnected from the world?
I watch wrestling and Kamen Rider. That's pretty much it. I don't know.
Okay. Well, yeah, there's a Five Nights at Freddy movie coming out right around Halloween.
Okay. Oh, nice. Okay. Is it
So
live action?
yeah. Well,
Okay.
so's the video games technically, I guess. Like,
Well, they're pretty rudimentary, right? It's like just images, still images almost, right?
no, you're Josh. They
Okay.
can't jump. They can't jump scare with the still image.
That's fair. That's fair.
And the games slowly get more and more involved ish in ways that I wouldn't expect them to, and the super stupid lore that's kind of hidden is somehow fitting together slowly, which is concerning me that I kind of get what's going on.
Yeah, that is a little concerning. I like it.
But yeah,
Nice. We'll go check out Toby's playthrough of Five Nights at Freddy's.
all of them though. All of them.
Every set of 5.
So
It's
at
like
first, I was gonna do 5 days of each game to make it like work its way naturally throughout October and like run into November a
sure.
little bit. But 1 or 2 of the games are definitely too hard and too frustrating, where I just gave up. I had to recompensate or recalculate my numbers and do some other stuff.
Nice. Okay. I don't know anything about really these games clearly. So I will have to go check these out and see what's up. Cuz I know they're very popular, but I just haven't really experienced them. For me on the internet, you can check me out on Twitter and Threads and places like that at Pretty Deece Josh. You can also follow the channel on YouTube. Just search for Pretty Deece. It's youtube.com/Pretty Deece as well. It's where you'll find the video episodes here of the comment writers. And I would love, since it is October now, getting in the Halloween season as Toby is with Five Nights at Freddy's, I want to watch some really good Halloween themed movies, maybe some light horror, nothing too intense. But I'd love to know your favorite horror movies. So send in an email and let us know your favorite horror movie. Bonus points if those movies are Japanese or are even toku related. I'd love to know if there's anything in that realm that would be good to watch to get into the Halloween spirit. So that is your assignment out there, listeners, is send me your movies and I shall watch them. All right, so that wraps up our episode 5 review and this episode. We will be back next week for episode 6. I'm very excited, especially to see more of Wrestler G. Hopefully, he makes an appearance pretty soon. And we hope you join us back for a discussion on episode 6. But until then, have a great week, everybody. Peace.